one of the things that we do in this service is write down some of the things we would like to let go of, things from the past year that are not serving us anymore. And normally when we do the service at the church, we would have a flame and we would burn those things as part of the ceremony. And of course, we're all in our individual homes now. So, but I'd still like to encourage you to write down some things later on in the service that you would like to let go of from the previous year. And if you care to, you could go out after the service into the backyard and find a nice safe metal pan or plate or something that you can burn those on, or in the barbecue grill or something, if you would like to do that. I know in the retreat that we did with Reverend Carol up in the Smoky Mountains, we spent quite a long time putting together our little cloth packages, putting bits of ground corn and tobacco in them, and each one to represent a wish that we had for the future or something we wanted to let go of, and we burned all those in the fire as well. So that's a wonderful practice to send stuff off into the spirit world where it can be working for you, even when you're not paying attention to it later. So if you have some little bits of paper and a pen handy, then a little bit later we'll be doing that. So on New Year's Day of 2004 was when I first came to Westside, and that Sunday that year just happened to be New Year's Day, and I'd made a New Year's resolution to go and find a church to join where I would be able to do some service. And I turned up at Westside on New Year's Day in 2004, and Bill Calhoun was doing this Janus service. And, obviously, for those who knew Bill, he's no longer with us, but we try and keep that tradition going here for around New Year. We try and do this service. So that give you a little bit of background. So before we carry on with the rest of the service, I'm going to, we'll do our chalice lighting. Wendy's going to light the chalice for us in the church, and I'll do the reading. This chalice reading is by Lois Van Leer. It's from the UUA website. It's called On the Brink of a New Year. We light this chalice on the brink of a new year, letting go of what has been, open and hopeful for what may come, renewed, restored, ready to live life fully anew. May we move forward with intention. Thank you, Wendy. So the reason why we do a service called Janus at this time of year, Janus was the Roman god of, he had two faces, one looking towards the past and one looking towards the future. He was the god of gateways, beginnings and endings, transitions, and there would be pictures of the Janus head all over the gateways and doorways all over Rome. They actually had a big compound, and when they went to war, they would open up those huge doors, and when they made peace, they would close them again, just to let everybody in the city know the kind of standing that they were at. So January 1st was a big day for Janus in Roman times, at the times of the Roman Empire, because with it being the first day of a new year and the first day of a new month, it was a double beginning and a double ending. So Janus was celebrated on those days at the beginning of every month and the beginning of every year. And this is a double celebration for both. So Janus really symbolizes our relationship to our past and to the future. And at these times, it's good to kind of look back and examine what we've done over the past year and try and find the things we can let go, and look forward to the new year, and set our intentions. So what I'd like to do is try and help you to do that this year. It's been especially difficult. I can imagine that people made all kinds of intentions at the beginning of last year of the things they were going to do in 2020. And then, life happened, as it often does. And a lot of those a lot of those things that we intended to do had to be put on hold because we couldn't get to the gym, or we couldn't get out to see people. We couldn't travel. So I'm sure as we look back along on our past year, there'll be plenty of things where we said, I'm going to do this in the coming year, and we didn't get the opportunity to do that. So it's a good experience to learn from. So we have a strange relationship to the past. Of course, they say, some say the past doesn't actually exist and the future doesn't exist. The past is just our memory and the future is just our imagination. But the past and the future are such a big part of our lives. We spend a lot of time thinking about and rehashing the things that we've done in the past and what our responses were to situations, or whether we did the right thing or the wrong thing. And it's easy to live in the past. Our imaginations are so amazing. We have this faculty for going through step by step the things that happen, past events, reliving them, and not only reliving the factual parts of them, but actually re-experiencing the emotions that we felt when we were in that situation, whether it be joyful things or anger or frustration. And so it's very easy to go back and take those things and live them through over and over again, and try and figure out, did I do that right? Is there something I could have done better? Did I make a mistake when I did that? Or we look back upon the distant past over our lives, and we have regrets about the things that we didn't do, the opportunities that we didn't take. And it's easy to get into a negative spiral with the past, of rehashing events and trying to figure out how we could have done them better, or getting into this thing of regretting what we did in the past, but then not learning from it and using it as a springboard for our action in the future. So I'll give you a couple of hints and tips from some of the things that I've learned. There are promises that they give to us in Alcoholics Anonymous, that they say these things will come about if you work the program. And one of the promises that they make to us is that we won't regret the past, always to shut the door on it, which is kind of a big ask for people who maybe done some terrible things in the past, who maybe wrecked their marriages, been to prison, possibly have spent many years drinking to escape their problems, and not meeting their full potential, and coming back into this life of sobriety 10, 20, 30 years later, thinking to themselves, what have I done with my life? I've wasted it. I haven't taken all the opportunities that I could have done because of this addiction that I've been suffering through. So to promise people that they won't regret the past, that's a big promise to make. And one of the ways in which that comes about is that we learn how to use the past to good account. We write down all the things that we've, the resentments that we've had against people, the mistakes that we've made, and we attempt to learn from those things so that we can move forward with a better model of how to live our lives. But the other thing that we do is we learn how to turn the things that we've done wrong to good account, not only for ourselves, but for other people. So one of the things that we're promised is that no matter how far we've gone down the path of our addiction, we'll learn how our experience can benefit others. So somebody else who's coming into the program for the first time and is suffering these terrible regrets and the fears that they have that they've ruined their life, we can say to them, I did all those things that you did. I wasted my life. I spent my time quitting jobs that I could have got promotions in, and I ruined my marriage and things like that. And now that I'm sober, my life is starting to turn around, and that could happen for you too. So we take the bad things that we've done and we use them as a learning experience to help other people who are new in the program. So that's an extreme example, but I think that it's a pointer to a spiritual axiom of what our memory and what our past experience is for. Our past experience is there for us to learn from. And if we're making the same mistakes and having the same patterns of behavior over and over again, there's something that we can learn from that about the deep things about what we really want from life. For example, one of the things I learned, I was always moving on. I'm really grateful for some of the things that I did that were a part of my bad character. I quit jobs over and over again, but one of the things that did was got me here to America. I would never have come to America if it wasn't for the fact that, I was always quitting jobs and moving on and looking for something new. But one of the things I always denied was that I had a deep-seated desire for emotional and economic security that I wasn't providing for myself. So when I sat down and looked at the patterns in my life, I realized that I really wanted and needed that emotional security and stability, and that I can take some actions to help me to get that in my life instead of denying that it existed. So when we look at the past and we kind of rehashing a one given situation over and over again, like looking at all of the different combinations of permutations of things that we could have done to fix it. I could have said this, I could have said that, I could have done this, I could have done that. Sometimes what we're doing is we're taking a situation that was not within our control, and no matter what we do, no matter what our response is, we're not going to necessarily get the outcome that we're looking for, especially with other people who, they're adapting what they're doing and saying. The imaginary person in our head that is saying the right thing so we can come back with a good comeback. The next time that happens, that we're not going to get the opportunity to come back with that good comeback. So another general good principle to learn, especially when we're dealing with people, is that we all have our own agendas going into interactions, and that we need to be looking for the win-win for both of us in there, not just how could I have got the better of that situation, how could I have won that situation and that confrontation, but instead how could I make it so that it's a good situation for both of us, because then we're not fighting another person and trying to get our own way and coming up with opposition and treading on people's toes. So some of these good principles, rather than looking at each individual situation, we can say, what's a good principle to live by in terms of like honesty, knowing that we can't control other people, coming to a good outcome that is going to be a win-win for everybody. Some of the ways in which we can take that experience and instead of just rehashing it to figure out what we could have said better, what general principles can I apply to my life to make it like better and more fulfilling in the future. So as we look back upon the past year and some of the things that have happened, we might just kind of reflect and use those general principles as a guide to what we can learn from our past experience. I've got a poem here from Mary Oliver that I'm going to help us lead into the next little section that I want to talk about. It's called Lines Written in the Days of Growing Darkness. Every year we have been witness to it, how the world descends into a rich mash in order that it may resume, and therefore who would cry out to the petals on the ground to stay, knowing as we must how the vivacity of what was is married to the vitality of what will be. I don't say it's easy, but what else will do if the love one claims to have for the world be true? So let us go on cheerfully enough, this and every crisping day, though the sun be swinging east and the ponds be cold and black and the sweets of the year be doomed. I think this points us up to a couple of things. One is, of course, that the world goes in cycles, that some things have to end in order for a new beginning to be made. And as it says here, the vivacity of what will be is married to the vitality, to the vivacity of what was is married to the vitality of what will be. They say that in spiritual circles, some say that if you want flowers, you don't go round looking for flowers to stick in the ground. You have to kneel down and get your hands in the dirt and put manure into the ground, and there has to be rain, and you plant the seeds, and there's patience waiting for it to come to fruition. And a happy life is kind of like that too. You know, it's in the hard things and the dirty things and the difficult work that the fruits come to be. So, you know, we're kind of all pursuing happiness, but in actual fact, sometimes what we have to do is do the hard work and get our hands dirty and do some of those difficult things in order to get those fruits into the future. So also something to bear in mind, you know, while we're setting our intentions for the up and coming. So since it's already about 10:18, I'm going to give you the opportunity just to write down some of these things that you'd like to let go of up in the coming year. And while you're doing that, I'll just play a little bit of music to help you to pass the time. So if you've got your pen and paper, then you can write a couple of little things down. And I'll just play very gently. Anybody need more time? I'll flick through if anybody's saying anything. Okay, so we've kind of spent a little bit of time thinking about our past year and what we want to release from that, or the lessons that we want to learn. Now let's look to our future and our future intentions. I know I'm terrible. Janet said to me, and I'm just the same, we make New Year's resolutions every year and we don't necessarily stick to them. By the beginning of January, they're kind of like, yeah, I know. I'm done with that now. Thank you. So that's another thing that we can learn from our past experience with, and learn to set ourselves a little bit more realistic expectations for the things that we would like to do for the future. And I'd like to encourage you, as you look towards the new year, to set things for yourself that you think that don't have a dependency upon things outside circumstances. You know, we all have learned from the past experience of our year of COVID that sometimes our plans and what we would like to do for the future are subject to being cancelled by things that are beyond our control. But there's plenty of things that we can do in terms of our own internal spiritual work and spiritual life that don't have a dependency on things that are going on outside. For example, you know, one of the things I'd want to set as my intention coming forward for the new year is that I'll reach out to people more by phone, because, you know, I'm terrible at doing that. You know, I have a thing about making phone calls, and I don't reach out to people as often as I should. And that's something that is within my power to change, I guess, unless all the cell towers are destroyed or something, you know. Hopefully that won't happen. I'd like to read another poem for you. This is by Naomi Shahid Nye. It's called Famous. The river is famous to the fish. The loud voice is famous to silence, which knew it would inherit the earth before anyone said so. The cat sleeping on the fence is famous to the birds, watching him from the birdhouse. The tear is famous briefly to the cheek. The idea you carry close to your bosom is famous to your bosom. The boot is famous to the earth, more famous than the dress shoe, which is famous only to floors. The bent photograph is famous to the one who carries it, and not at all famous to the one who is pictured. I want to be famous to shuffling men who smile while crossing streets, sticky children in grocery lines, famous as the one who smiled back. I want to be famous in the way a pulley is famous, or a buttonhole, not because it did anything spectacular, but because it never forgot what it could do. Now, as we move forward into the new year, never forget what it is that you can do, no matter what the circumstances. You'll always have the power to respond to circumstances, to choose what your response is, to either feel despair or to say there's always something that can be made out of it. Where there's life, there's hope. You can always reach out to somebody else and be a light or a hope in somebody else's life. That's the thing, or one of the things that can make the difference between hope and despair. So let's just take a minute. We got 5 minutes. Let's just take a couple of minutes and set some intentions for the year on our little bits of paper or in our journal. And I'll just play a little again while you do that. See, some people are still writing. I have a closing reading as we wrap up our service for today. It's from our hymnal, Sing the Living Tradition. It's number 667. It's The Cry of the Realist, and it's from Ecclesiastes in the Hebrew Testament. And just to give it a little bit of context, it kind of sounds as if it might be a little bit fatalistic, which, I don't care for, but it closes up on a note that says the most important thing for us is to enjoy those small everyday things that come up in life. The big things, the plans that we have, they all come to nothing in the end. But the most important thing is that we take our joy where we can and really appreciate the life that we've been given. The Cry of the Realist. Vanity of vanities, says the teacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What do people gain from all the toil at which they toil under the sun? A generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. The sun still rises and the sun goes down and hurries to the place where it rises. The wind blows to the south and goes round to the north. Round and round goes the wind on its circuit. The wind returns. All streams run to the sea, but the sea is not full. To the place where the streams flow, there they continue to flow. All things are wearisome, more than one can express. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, or the ear filled with hearing. What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done. There is nothing new under the sun. Go eat your bread with enjoyment, and drink your wine with a merry heart. God has long ago approved what you do. Light is sweet, and it is pleasant for the eyes to see the sun. Even those who live many years should rejoice in them all. Go in peace.